Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. We're just letting in people. If you just can give us a minute or so. Dogozo, you let me know when we can start. I see numbers are trickling in.
Dr. T, I think maybe you can start at 10 past.
Okay. I'll hand over to you at 10 past to just take us through the logistics of the meeting.
Okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first RTF meeting of the year. I'll just quickly go through the house rules before handing over to Dr. T for the rest of the program. So for the duration of the webinar, we'll have mics muted for all attendees. And if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A and our colleagues will answer them. And at the end of the program, we'll have a short Q&A session. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. T.
Thank you very much, Dogozo. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our meeting. As Dogozo says, the first for the year. We trust that you will find it valuable. Before I can start, I just want to say we've received a list of items that industry would like to discuss with us in this meeting. And I've asked the team that a lot of them are operational, right? So please make sure that those that are not discussed in this meeting, they get discussed at the working groups, okay, for each of the technical committees. So we have received the list and I've gone through it thoroughly and have made a decision that some will be included and they were already included in the agenda, and some we need to just you need to deal with them in the operational RTF meetings, okay? Because we won't be able to get through everything in this meeting, but again, a lot of them are operational in nature and would need you to engage with the respective senior managers. So as a way of starting, I'd like for our new Chief Regulatory Officer to introduce herself, Temi. Temi Gopal joined us on the 1st of March. Temi, will you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Good morning, colleagues. Temi Gopal. I started beginning of March, and I'm really looking forward to my journey at SAHPRA. I know most of my industry colleagues, and I'm looking forward to this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we were saying to Temi that she's on the other side now. So she's going to have to take all your tough questions. Welcome, Temi. All right, great. So we're going to go straight into it. And today I thought let's start with medical devices. I know the agenda starts with our usual kind of format, but I think it's, Mukona in future, let's kind of move these things around so that we adequately address all our areas. So Anodi Makatso has traveled. She's in Japan at the moment. Lydia, will you be presenting or is it Kanye?
Yes, Dr. Dumi.
All right, thank you. Over to you, Lydia. And again, there were a number of matters that industry asked us to engage on, and I've asked that these are dealt in the working group. I've also asked Temi to attend the next set of working groups together with the senior managers so that we provide clear direction and guidance to the team, and also for her to get a sense as the Chief Regulatory Officer of what are some of the pending issues that she will need to support the team with. So in your next working groups, Tammy will join. All right, over to you, Lydia, please.
Morning to everyone. I'll be speaking to the regulations and feasibility study, radiation control incidents, and then finally the status of the adverse event guidelines. So in terms of the regulation, next slide, please. Okay, the second version, the revised regulation, was published on the 25th of August 2023 for stakeholder comments, wherein the National Department of Health did receive your comments in November 2023. During December 2023 to February 2024, they were busy collecting the comments, and then they shared the comments with the medical device unit SAHPRA in February, the end of February. And then during the February, the medical device unit collated the comments, put them in a form that they can go through them. And as we look at the comments, we also updated the revised regulations. Then from February to March, we were collating those comments, and then April to June, we reviewed them internally. Then in June, middle of June, we shared with our expert committee, the medical device committee. The medical device committee reviewed, and by July, the medical device committee shared their review on the comments with SAHPRA, shared their comments, and then we sit together with them and we reviewed the comments with the medical device committee. Then it came to August where we shared the comments with our legal committee. Then both the medical device team, the medical device committee and the legal committee shared and looked at the comments. And then as we go through the comments, we are updating the regulation. And January to date, we finalized the last comment, and the document is now prepared to be shared with our executive committee, the board, then it will go to NDAH for publication. Next slide, please. So we had our roadmap for feasibility study, which it was our plan on going through the feasibility study. This was a roadmap that we initially shared with the industry during our engagement. And then I'll speak to the next slide in terms of this roadmap where we are. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, we started with expression of interest. In expression of interest, we started by having a webinar with our industry colleagues or industry stakeholders. The 19th of April, we started having industry engagement to sensitize them on the next upcoming product registration feasibility study. Then on the 17th of May, we published the expression of interest to the stakeholders for voluntary participation in the study. The closing date was the 28th of June 2024. Out of that expression of interest, we received 15 applicants interested to participate in the study. The number of products that were proposed were 22, which 15 of which were HIV products, both IVD and non-IVDs. 7 were tuberculosis products, both IVD and non-IVDs. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, then after we got our participants, then we have to train them on how to submit on the portal. By that time, we did only have the FTP as a submission portal, which we trained them on it. It was between October and December because we were dependent on our availability of our IT colleagues. Then I'll come to the point where we have submission and review of technical dossiers. We communicated in November 2024 on the submission timelines and any requirements that they need to put forward as they submit their technical dossier. We gave them the closing date of submission of all technical dossiers for all participants in the study to be the 28th of February 2025. So if we look at Q4 to February 2025, the way technical dossiers that we receive quick within November, then those we started training our internal reviewers to review using those technical dossiers. To date, we received about 16 technical dossiers, that is 16 products, so we didn't reach the number of 22. There were several applicants, participants that requested extended timeline with various reasons, and we look at the merit and we agreed. However, 2 participants withdrew because of the reason of internal reasons from their side. So we have accepted that, which means we will be only expecting 20 dossiers to look at. So during January this year, we started training, like I indicated, training of internal evaluators. February, we further in the middle of February, before the end of February, we engaged those that have not submitted. That's how we find out that they do have challenges that were not put forward. But we deliberate and agree that they can submit at a certain time frame as per the agreement. So to date, I'm happy to say we have 1 technical dossier that is close to finalization to give out a review outcome. We don't have a registration certificate. So we will just give a review outcome that such a dossier, it could be approved for registration in the future. So as we go along, because we have our guidelines in draft, we started drafting a structure that we will use for an outcome, that outcome report, as we promised during our webinar where we were talking about expression of interest and the feasibility study. We promised that we'll have an outcome report of the feasibility study. So we have started with the structure and we are busy putting it information into that outcome report. Next slide, please. I'm not sure if
Hi,
Chair-
Keza, how are you?
Not muted.
Okay. Or must I continue with radiation control? So in radiation control, we're looking at the management of radiation incidents. During the year of 2024, we don't have any open incidents. All incidents are closed. And then if we look at what we receive in terms of incidents in the year of 2024, there were 11 in total number received, of which 7 were illegal use of equipment. One was loss of equipment. One is illegal exporting. And the other one is radiation exposure. And then the other one out of the 11 were stolen equipment and unauthorized use of source with multiple stakeholders. In this year 2025, we've got only one open, which is an unauthorized use of a source that is with multiple stakeholders, and is not yet closed. The investigation is still ongoing. The last slide is about the guidelines. Next slide, please. On the 13th of December 2024, SAHPRA did publish approved guidelines for management of medical device vigilance, including adverse events, reporting form for medical devices, and IVDs. The guideline, you got the number there. If you click on the number, you see the guideline is there. And then it supersedes or replaces the one what was for recalls, vigilance, medical device guideline, which was on the website. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lydia. I think we can see if there's questions. As we usually do, please put your questions in the Q&A. The team will respond to those, and at the end we'll then open up, as Ntokozo said, to take some questions. But maybe I can read a few for you, Lydia. So the first is, are radiation control licenses still being issued? We submitted all required documentation, but still not received our license since 2024. I'm not sure if anyone from Redcon is here. Let's tackle that one. The second one is, can participants of the feasibility study and broader industry also be engaged with the guideline revisions as well for input and comment? I think that's doable, but Lydia, please respond to that. And then the other one says, many operational issues are not being addressed at the working group. What is the process to follow to escalate the agenda items that remain static with no progress? Okay, I'll speak to this, but let me have Lydia address the first two.
With regards to the license from the radiation control, I don't have the team here. I cannot address that at this moment. I'll take it back to the team. Oh, Mkondisi is here. Thank you, Mkondisi.
Thanks, Lydia. Apologies, I just joined during your presentation. I had the question, if I can ask, because I think this is a applicant-specific matter, then they can forward the query to me, then we can assist going forward. But definitely, radiation control does issue licenses for Group 3 and authorities for Group 4 hazardous substances. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to address the one for engagement with regard to guidelines revisions. During our webinar, we did indicate to the industry that as we put our guidelines in draft, as we update them, we will follow our procedure where once we have finalized the guideline, is sent out for comments by the industry. Of course, the industry will be involved and engaged towards that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for those two responses. So on the working group, so the approach is that the senior managers and the managers should be in the working group. And then if there's any matter that's not resolved, you should escalate it to the CRO, in this case to Tammy. And if then it's still not addressed, escalate it to myself. But we must be clear what it is that we're escalating, right? So if there are matters that we're not in agreement on, right? It's important that we know that we're not going to agree on everything. So even if you escalate, you may end up still with us as a regulator saying that is the position that we're taking. And as I always say, that there'll be many instances where we must agree to disagree. It doesn't mean the matter is not resolved. It's resolved, just that we are taking a very clear stance on a certain matter. And so I just want to differentiate between a matter that is not being resolved, which should be escalated, versus a matter where you're not in agreement with the regulatory position that we take. It doesn't mean it's not resolved. It just means we're not in agreement. So let's just separate between the two, but that's the escalation process, please. Okay. And as I've indicated, Tammy will attend the first few. She would not attend all of them typically, but just so she gets a sense of what are the pending issues. Okay, that's that, Lydia. Thank you so much. We'll then go back to medicines. We'll start with the presentation from Pratibha, please. And then we'll take Kristalna on the cancellation. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Right, so I'm taking you through the new registrations, renewals, and variation stats. It is quite a lot. I will be going through it fairly quickly. Please put your questions in the chat as well. All right, so today we'll start off with the new registration stats and a slide which everyone is familiar with, the estimated approval timeline stats for the new chemical entities, and we measure in terms of masters. We know that the estimated approval timelines, as has been shared with industry, for new chemical entities is 360 working days. This is the scientific assessment timeline. We currently have in our system an application, or 3 applications rather, pending in Group 11, and that is applications that were received between January 2022 and March 2022, and we're 50% finalized there. Now, before I continue, I will give you stats up until Group 15 only, because this is the project that we're working on at SAHPRA in terms of a backlog. We are, however, receiving applications up until Group 23. So please, as mentioned earlier, put your questions in the chat if you have anything with regards to the higher grouping. But just to go back to the new chemical entities, Group 11, we are 50% complete there. Group 12, 56% complete. Group 13, 17% complete. Group 14, 25% complete. And Group 15, 83% complete. As mentioned, that is 360 working day scientific assessment, and that excludes the stop clock time as well as technical screening time. Just to mention something on the technical screening time, industry has been asking a lot of questions on what is technical screening time. We are currently working on that, and we will start a formal measurement of technical screening from the next quarter, and should be able to give you better stats with regards to technical screening at the next RTF. Just to mention that as a team, we are currently complete with, or rather busy with, technical screening in Group 18 across the board, with some of the units already in Group 21 with their technical screening. What we are trying to do at SAHPRA is to actually balance out the technical screening within all of the units so that we can share one query letter with applicants, and that will be from next month. All right, so then with regards to biologicals, very similar to the new chemical entities, it tracks at a 360 working day scientific assessment. What we have in the system currently is one application in Group 8 still pending approval. So we are currently 88% finalized in Group 8, 67% finalized in Group 12. We have not finalized any applications in Group 13, Group 14. We have only one pending application, and Group 15, we have 2 pending applications. So we finalized nothing in Group 15. Then when we move to the biosimilars, this also tracks at 360 working days. We have an application in Group 2 that is still incomplete. So we are 67% complete there. In Group 9, we are 86% complete, Group 13, 50% complete, and Group 15, we have yet to commence evaluation approvals. And then finally, with regards to generics, we have in the system Group 8 applications. We are 98% complete there. Group 9, 94% complete. Group 10, 88% complete. Group 11, 50% complete. Group 12, 36% complete. Group 13, 24% complete. Group 14, 29% complete. And Group 15, 28% complete. Right, so I have been mentioning that the Groups 15 and below is falling under the umbrella of backlog at SAHPRA, and this is what we are focusing 80% of our attention on. When we had started this activity, as far back as September 2024, we had identified a total of 521 master applications that were in backlog. This we further broke down into smaller and more manageable subtasks. As you can see, that's 466 masters with 1 to 4 units pending, and then 55 masters where longer delays were expected. These are the generic applications with clinical data and those applications that require a site inspection. And thereafter, we prioritize the activities accordingly. Our updates to today, or rather the second week of March at our last registration committee meeting, we currently have for the 1 to 4 units pending 331 masters still pending, and for the longer delays expected 39 masters pending. So with regards to the projected timeline to completion, so when we started the activity in September last year, we had baselined around 50 masters to be approved monthly. Unfortunately, this did not go according to plan. There were various reasons for this, which necessitated a review on our way of working within the units, etc. And we saw quite a vast improvement around February of 2025. So this is now when we can safely say that we have improved our run rate. February, we ended at 84% completion out of the 50 masters per month, which was a big, or was attributed rather to the new ways of working in both inspectorate and naming and scheduling. And already in March, we can see that the numbers are looking positive as well. So where we had said that this activity will complete in July 2025, I am going back to the drawing board. It does look like it may take another 2 months to complete. Right, so then with regards to the renewals updates, for the overall summary per phase, we have 58 applications that are in screening query, 25 in evaluation in progress, 7 applications have been withdrawn or rejected, 28 applications have queries to applicants, and 88 applications have been approved to date. Just in terms of the evaluation statuses, phase 1, this was for applications received between June and December 2023. 95% of that has been finalized with certificates still to be issued. In phase 2, which ran between January and December 2024, we have 39% finalized with certificates to be issued. And phase 3 is what we've commenced this year in January 2025. Right, just an update from the unit manager with regards to the fees. New fees had recently been gazetted. That's the 13th of Feb 2024. There have been a number of queries with regards to how fees should be paid. So for the new chemical entities, the basic fee is 34,000 Rand for the master and or 13,500 per line extension, with a maximum of 2 line extensions per application being payable. Then for the generic medicines, it is 31,600 basic fee for the master and or 9,600 per line extension, with a maximum of 2 line extensions per application being payable. For masters, duplicates, replicas, and clones, these will be charged separately. And for line extension, the fee is capped at 2 lines, and the ask is to refer to the communication and payment guide to support and obviously to reach out to the unit if you have further queries. Right, to take you through the different units with regards to their variation stats, we'll start off with inspectorate unit. For the type 1 variations, we will go as far back as the financial year of 2022-2023. The unit received a total of 710 applications. 421 of those applications are completed and 289 are still outstanding. For the 2023-2024 financial year, the unit received 1,133 applications, of which 56 were completed, and there are 1,077 applications still outstanding. For the 2024-2025 financial year, 496 applications were received, 23 completed, with 473 still outstanding completion. Then, with regards to type 2 variations, from April 2024 up until August 2024, there are currently no applications outstanding. Then from September 2024 to December 2024, it's 100% of the applications that have been received that are still outstanding, review and approval. Type 2 variations in the unit are currently tracking at no backlog. And the timeline there is 120 working days. Right, so for variations in the naming and scheduling unit, variation applications in the system for the period of January 2024 to February 2025. Total number of applications, 143 received. Completed is 107. 22 are in evaluation query, 1 in process, 4 in finalization, and 9 still to be allocated. Message from the unit. Naming and scheduling is responsible for both the name change and rescheduling applications. An important note to share that as per the guideline to proprietary names for medicine, section 4.2, applicants are still being encouraged to create proprietary names by combining the international non-proprietary name with a company identifier, but in the format INN identifier. So for example, paracetamol 500 milligram with the company name after the name of the molecule with the strength. All existing proprietary names that are currently in the system as identifier with INN, so company name before the INN, this must be changed to the preferred format as per the above. The due date for this change was June 2024, and I'd strongly encourage that you reach out to the unit for applications that are still shown as identifier with INN. And then all INNs are to comply with the updated spelling, which was published in June 2019, which is Appendix 9.6. To move on to variations from the clinical unit, The update for type 1 variations, there are 1,461 applications that have been received in total. 1,176 have been processed to date. That is at an 80% output, and the unit has commented that there are quite a high number of applications that they are receiving for type 1s. For type 2 variations, they have received a total of 198 applications. 125 have been processed. There is a 63% output. 17% of those applications have gone beyond the 120 working day timeline. Then with regards to responses, there are 175 applications received. 107 have been processed. There is 61% output. The unit has indicated that they are receiving non-compliant responses and responses with clinical data, which is taking a longer time to review. Moving over to the quality unit with regards to variations, the statuses for quality units. In the allocation pending, there are 44 allocations in response, 577 type 1As, 514 type 1Bs, and 10 type 2s. In the approved section, there are 210 responses that have been approved, 316 type 1As that have been approved, 191 type 1Bs that have been approved, and 96 type 2s that have been approved. For evaluation queries, there are 31 responses that are with applicants. 86 of those are type 1As, type 1Bs 131, and type 2s 104. In peer review responses, there are 12, type 1As 30 applications, 56 type 1Bs, and 16 type 2s. In primary reviews, there are 70 in responses, 268 type 1As, 294 type 1Bs, and 32 type 2s. Rejected 4 responses, 3 type 1As, 5 type 1Bs, and 3 type 2s. And withdrawn applications, 2 are in responses, 1 in type 1A, 1 type 1B, no, 3 type 1B, and 5 type 2s. Note from the unit as well, with regards to PEM post of 04-24-25, which is the inclusion of reliance codes, there is a clarification to industry that the code applies per strength and duplicate, so appropriate fees must be paid in that regard. Clarification on the submission of ECTD responses to sequences that are submitted as ESAPs. The ask there is to indicate on the cover letter for sequence tetra 0 and 0001 as a resubmission for conversion to ECTD, not for evaluation. Right, and then finally for the biologics unit, the stats there for the type 2s, the total number of applications of type 2s, there's 242. Finalized to date, 165. Finalized within the timeline, which is 159. Finalized outside the timeline, 6. In peer review, there's 32 applications. In pending peer review, there's 12. In primary review, 19 applications, 14 applications, allocations pending total, and then allocations pending in backlog, there's 9. For type 1Bs, the unit has received 323 applications. 86 of these have been finalized. 83 were finalized within the time. 3 were finalized outside the time. 11 applications are still in peer review. 11 are also pending peer review. 41 are in primary review. Allocations pending still are 174, and 151 pending are in backlog. Type 1A applications, the unit has received 187 applications in total. 55 of those have been finalized. 40 of those are finalized within timeline, 15 beyond the timeline. 11 are in peer review. 8 applications are pending peer review. 31 applications are in primary review. Allocations still pending are 82, and 78 of those are in backlog for pending allocation. And then finally, for response reviews, the The unit has received a total of 156 applications, of which 74 have been finalized. Finalized within time was 60 applications. Finalized beyond the time was 14 applications. 3 are in peer review. 14 are pending a peer review. In primary review, there are 27 applications. The total number of allocations still pending is 24. 16 of those are in backlog. Note from the unit, in order to streamline the application process, the unit is asking that you do not copy the manager or the MRO when submitting applications, but to rather follow the submission process to avoid any unnecessary delays. This is important because it is creating an email congestion, and critical queries are actually being missed, and this is also impacting timeline. Final slide for submitting of biological variation technical queries. The ask is to direct your queries to the right channel. For Z-code requests and technical queries, send your queries to the biological variations at sahpra.org.za mailbox. For the variation status checker, the checker has been updated and corrected as of the 5th of Feb 2025, so correct statuses are currently reflected. And this will help to reduce email influx about application statuses. So please view the variation status checker first before even sending emails. This matters to the unit because it reduces delays in responding to biological medicine queries. And the ask again to reiterate, check the variation status checker before emailing the unit. And that is it from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pratibha. Just to say to the SAHPRA team, please look at the Q&A. I see medical device team has been responding. I'm just asking everyone to just be focused on the Q&A so that you can address the questions that are being raised to us, because there is quite a lot and we may not be able to talk to all of them. I just want to see how we're doing on time. Okay. So there's quite a few. So Pratibha, I'll just raise a few and then you and the team will then address the others on the Q&A itself. So the first one. So the first question I'm seeing here is, what are, we need to understand your timelines. When does the clock start? So yeah, just elaborate on that. Is it on submission, as this is the international standard? Then the next question is, so could you kindly clarify if these stats would, I think they mean, could you clarify if these stats include the priority review applications? Or are these tracked differently? So are you tracking priority review differently, or is it included here? And then there's a comment here that says, can we please have similar stats for priority review? So there's some questions around priority review. And then next one, and I'll pause here so you can respond to these, Pratibha. For second responses, we are required to pay a fee. In some instances, the second query round includes questions not raised in the first round. Is a payment still required in these instances? Before you respond, Pratibha, there's something I wanted to mention to industry, that we've done an assessment of a number of these products that are in backlog. And I'm really pleading with industry here. We're sitting with applications that are on 6, 5, 4 query rounds. You all know that we actually are to enable only 2 query rounds. So we're taking a firm position now. If you don't address all the required queries by the second query round, we're going to reject your application, because some of the products that are in the backlog are not due to SAHPRA. They're due to the numerous query extensions or query rounds being given to you as industry. In some instances, it looks as though new data is being generated. And so we're going to be quite firm on this. so that when we say we have a backlog, it's a true backlog for us as SAHPRA, and it's not a backlog created by these many query responses. It's quite a number of them that are going beyond the 2 that we allow. In some of our recent numbers, we've got something like close to 33 master applications that have had numerous query rounds. So we're going to take a very firm position, and we're going to reject these applications. But let me pause here and have Pratibha respond to these questions while I look at the others.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. T. I didn't hear the second question very well, but I'll go with the first question. So when does clock start? Clock starts after technical screening. This has always been how we've calculated at SAHPRA. It is actually a very common way of calculating timelines and how we've always reported. So it's after technical screening, hence it does speak to what I had mentioned earlier, that we are looking at measuring technical screening from the next quarter, and we will have better data to share with industry at the next RTF. The second question is where you broke off, Dr. T. Maybe I will look at that in the Q&A. But the third question was with regards to the priority review stats. I've made a note on that, and it will be something that we'll look at separately. And then with regards to second response review query rounds, yes, according to the new government gazette, there will be a fee charged for the second response review, and this will include any new queries that have arisen in the evaluation as well. Thank you. And I'll address all the others in the chat now. Thanks.
Okay. All right. I think let's do that, colleagues. If your questions are not addressed when we then open up the floor for questions, you can raise them again. But in the interest of time, I'm going to ask Kristalna to speak to the cancellation, please.
Sorry, thanks, Dr. Tumi. Yeah. So I think just a quick update then from SAHPRA's side in terms of the request that we've received since the implementation of ECTD 3.1 in November. We have had right towards the end of the year and early this year communication requesting a alternate process or alternate way that SAHPRA would then consider receiving the submissions for cancellations for product registrations that applicants no longer want to retain. And we have, after some internal discussion, discussed and agreed that we would allow a grace period for and I think this is as per communicated yesterday, for 2 months, where applicants may, in writing, request or submit a request to process then cancellations manually and not through the ECTD 3.1 submissions process for that sequence to close the lifecycle management basically of the product, but then to do it as we had been operating prior 1 November. So I think what we then have communicated also in the letter that was shared yesterday is that this will be accommodated. We also said that this will be a once-off arrangement, and it is then for the 2 months that we will then process these requests. So basically, company letterhead, submit your request in writing, and attach, please, for us the list of products with the product detail that you no longer wish to retain on the medicines registration database that we're effectively then cancelling. We will then process that in this year, 2025. So therefore, those products will then not be on the medicine registration database as at 31 December 2025, which means that the retention fee for this particular year will then not be payable next year before June. I do just want to stress and make it very clear that products that was on the medicine registration database as at 31 December 2024, fees are still due and they are still payable before 30 June 2025. And kindly do ensure that there is compliance with that. And unfortunately, we will have to, as the data has already been raised and it's created a liability, we will need to then implement collection activities for any outstanding debts. And I think, yeah, any other queries on that, we indicated in the communication sheet yesterday that you may reach out to HBA's offices for further communication. Thanks.
Thanks, Christina. Let me just see. There were quite a few emails we received on this, but I'm not seeing any questions specifically for this, and maybe the communication that was issued helped. But if you do have any questions, please, on the cancellation, put them in the chat and Christina will address those. Pratibha and team, just have a look. There's still quite a few questions on variations. I think all the units, please have a look at the chat, at the Q&A. There's questions on clinical variations, etc. So Tosang and team, please look at that. All right. And then next we're going to move to veterinary medicines. Understand that. I just check if Alice is here.
And I'm here.
Okay, please go ahead, Alice.
Okay. I'm not really going to stick to these topics as I present. I have a short presentation because I just remembered that last time there was a query as to why we are not presenting our figures as well. I hope you can hear me. So
yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So basically in the unit, we are looking at applications, evaluating them.
Let's put it in slide mode, please.
Sorry. I don't know what this is. Just hold on. I'm clicking and, oh, okay, is that better? Okay, so basically we are assessing veterinary medicines applications in terms of quality, safety, and efficacy, and we also look at applications pre-registration and also in terms of variations, we look at quality and clinical aspects as well. We develop and update policy in terms of guidelines and all the templates and SOPs that go with that. We also authorize use of unregistered veterinary medicines under Section 21 of the Act. And we evaluate clinical trial protocols where medicines are supposed to be used, veterinary medicines are supposed to be used in clinical trials, and we authorize them. We monitor and act on reports of adverse drug reactions. This is a very passive process, and we hope in future to be more proactive. Our work also helps to protect the safety of food derived from animals by establishing withdrawal periods, and we continue to play a great role in antimicrobial resistance for companion and food-producing animals. Registrations over the years, we just took a snapshot of what has been happening since 2022. So far, we don't receive many applications, an average of 20 per annum. At the moment, I think by the end of this month, we'll have registered about 5 to 8 applications, which are for us low-hanging fruits. So in summary, our processes are very similar to what happens with human medicines, where inspectorate also has to confirm GMP, names and scheduling has to look at the applications too. And then in the unit, we look at clinical and safety in terms of safety and efficacy. And we also evaluate quality. Over the years, we've built capacity in terms of quality reviews internally. In terms of clinical aspects, when it comes to NCEs, we are using external experts to do that. And of late, we have started looking at biowaivers and some of the bio studies too. We have 2 acts which are regulating veterinary medicines in the country. And of late, we've also started receiving requests by applicants to submit certain applications regarding the stock remedies to us. It's something which is actually warranting discussion. This is just a graphical presentation of the current status of our applications. Quite a number still with inspectorate and are under review. However, when it comes to clinical and quality, I think we are progressing well, and I think we are on target by the end of the year. I did not do any stats for variations. This is where we spend about 70% of our time. We receive quite a number of variations, few in terms of clinical changes, but quite a number in terms of quality. And in future, I'm going to also present variations. I just wanted to highlight that we are participating in the Veterinary Medicine Zazibona initiative, which is a collaborative effort that began about 5 years ago to establish a harmonized approach to the regulation of veterinary medicinal products in the SADC region. Through information sharing, would like also to leverage our existing resources, which are quite limited in the region, and hope to reduce timelines for registration. And it could be also an advantage for industry when they submit through that platform that they get simultaneous registrations in the different countries. The initiative was modeled on the SADC Human Medicine Zazibona initiative, based on an agreement that was signed by the SADC member countries to participate in the joint veterinary medicinal products harmonization initiative. It operates through a technical working group, and SAHPRA is also one of the members in the technical working group and also coordinating the applications together with Botswana. So the current active participants are Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, Tanzania, and observers are Namibia and Malawi. However, other SADC members who are willing to participate are most welcome. At the moment, we are looking at registrations, and in future, we hope to also go into GMP inspections and pharmacovigilance. Since its inception, we've had quite a number of virtual meetings together, and we've been supported by the UK Veterinary Medicines Directorate as well during the process. We had an initial expression of interest where we asked industry to submit applications. We received 24 applications. However, only 8 of those qualified to proceed to technical screening. And we had serious challenges with the applications. The dossiers were substandard, but however, we thought we could use those dossiers also to sort of train our evaluators. What we discovered that we had very different standards in terms of approach to screening and even evaluation. So in the next meeting that we held in Lusaka from 24 to 28 February, we then used the same applications which were screened, plus these 3 applications that we received in the second phase to harmonize our templates for screening and harmonize our approach to evaluation. And we managed to do full reviews for 3 applications in that week. I see in my, on the agenda, there is also mention of autogenous vaccines. This is coming from a plea from the industry, where they've noted with concern that there are quite a number of autogenous vaccines that are being made, and no one seems to take ownership or in terms of regulation control of those vaccines. And SAHPRA has now taken that responsibility. We've developed a guideline which must now go through our internal process, through the policy committee. It has gone through the experts and they've agreed on it. It is mostly based on the Australian guideline for autogenous vaccines, and it will be published for comment, I think, by April. I think we are on track when it comes to that. We have had to train some of our reviewers in the units to see how they can also develop skills in terms of reviewing vaccines, by, veterinary biologicals. So far, I think that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. I just want to see questions for you. Okay, so Alice, there's a question here. Kindly clarify regulations regarding compounding of veterinary medicines. There are many companies compounding with the only evidence of compliance with the SAPC license. I think, please address that one while I screen through the others.
Okay. I think it's a hot topic which we are also working on internally. We are aware that there are issues around compounding, and we are at the moment working together with our inspectorate and regulatory compliance to make sure that whoever is compounding is doing it the right way. I think you've also seen a guideline that was published before for comment. And I think the most worrying thing for us is understanding and tracking who else is compounding apart from those that we know currently. And although our legislation allows for a veterinarian to compound, I think one of the things that we need to work on is when and how they should do that and under what circumstances, because there have been complaints from industry that they are registered products in the same dosage form, and those are being compounded. So it's a topic which we are really working on seriously.
Thank you, Alice. If I may just add that again, any product that is to be compounded, the API must be registered in the country. So that's important that you are aware of that. I think that's the only question I'm seeing for you, Alice, for now at least. So we'll continue then. Let me just give me a minute. Okay, there's another one I see. It says, kindly advise regarding the renewals of vet medicines and the request for PI update.
Yeah, I know there's been a request from industry to discuss this further, and Ntombi and I were planning a small workshop just to highlight what exactly is going on there. We have been, the process of renewal is very much identical to what you do with human medicines. The PIs, we are not supposed to be asking for data at renewal. And that's something which I'm investigating to see what exactly has been asked for. And we are also mindful of the fact that certain reviewers had requested information which probably doesn't suit what's, veterinary medicines. And we are also looking into that and training them to ask appropriate questions. So we are planning a workshop with Ntombi to see how we can harmonize that and make sure unnecessary questions are not. I see there is 4.5 chairperson on oversight of stock remedy antimicrobials. This is something which is a discussion which has been going on since 2022, 2023, where there is concern that we have antimicrobials being sold over the counter. We've engaged with Department of Agriculture on this topic, and I think we'll soon be engaging the stakeholders after further discussion with, we are busy working on a terms of reference on how this could be done in terms of oversight or movement to Act 101. But obviously, we can't do that without engagement of the industry. You shall soon be informed once we have come up with terms of reference and a proposed way forward on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. All right, I think just look at the Q&A. We'll now move. If there's any other questions, please do address them in the Q&A. Let's now move. Melanie, I can't see the agenda. I see just a beautiful tulip there.
Sorry, CEO, let me try again.
Still not. Okay, something is coming.
Let's try again.
I think you're selecting the wrong screen, maybe.
No.
Okay, here we go. We've got it now. Thank you.
Wait, sorry.
All right, so we've dealt with veterinary. We're now going to move to complementary medicines. Kaiser, over to you, please.
Thanks, Chair, and good morning, everyone. In terms of the feedback on the regulations, SAHPRA has completed all the processes that are relevant, and the regulations have been shared with the Department of Health for consideration and advising to the Minister.
You were saying, are you going no, I was saying,
sorry, we just need someone to mute. I'm not sure who it is. Thank you. Go ahead, Kaiser.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure the part that I spoke about on regulation. Do I have to repeat that?
Please.
They have been. Okay, I was saying SAHPRA has reviewed and finalized the processes relevant to SAHPRA in terms of considering the comments, and those regulations have been shared with the Department of Health for consideration and Minister's decision. So in terms of the current status, that's where we are insofar as the regulations are concerned. The agenda is gone out. Okay. And then the second agenda item, feedback on the Section 36 exclusion request of Section 18B. Just to highlight that this is a response that SAHPRA is working on in response to the request for clarity that industry submitted. So the document is currently under our legal scrutiny, and the legal will advise the CEO in terms of the way forward, and the communication will be shared as soon as it's available. Thanks, Chair. That's as far as the two items are concerned.
Okay. Let me see if there's questions. I think you were rather quick. Questions haven't come through yet. So there's a question here. Can SAHPRA consider sharing the stats for CAMS as previously requested? I think like veterinary, Kaiser, let's make it a standing item, please. That's noted, that you will share just stats on the licensing for now. All right. Okay, and then please take any other questions then in the Q&A. I don't see any other questions for you. Then I'm going to, both Daphne and Dion are out. So apologies, we've got a few people who are traveling. Is there anyone to speak to this? If not, I'll just speak at a very high level what's been happening here. Okay, so As many of you are aware, we are piloting the National Action Plan with the support from WHO on substandard and falsified products. We had a stakeholder workshop a few weeks ago, which I understand was well attended. We had stakeholders in the country that work with us in terms of compliance, law enforcement, etc. And there will be follow-up workshops that will take place. But also we solicit collaboration here with industry, particularly wherein, and we've seen it with some of the products, wherein your own registered products are being falsified. It is important that we work with you. This issue of substandard and falsified products, we cannot win this war on our own. We do need your hand and your assistance in dealing with these matters. We also are working with regulators within our region because, again, our borders are quite porous, and so invariably you are going to see these products going across borders. So we will be communicating whenever we have these workshops, whenever we have very targeted interventions. We will then be communicating with you and just soliciting your support. And I just want to thank those industry members that have been working with us on specific products, industry members that have also raised concerns about some falsified medicines. In some instances, it's theirs. And so we are working quite hard to resolve those. So that's just feedback at a high level on that one. I don't know if there's questions. Again, it was a quick update. So yeah, no specific question. I'll answer whatever questions as they come through. Kaiser, I see there's a question for you then. If you could address it, please. All right, so we'll proceed and we can give more detailed feedback at the next meeting. We've done medical devices. Ngondisi and team, I don't know if there's anything specific you want to report on the incident management.
So no CO, I think Lydia included the slide on incident management, where we are reporting the number of incidents that we had last year, and then they were all closed, so we have new ones for this year. But yeah, for now there's nothing.
There's nothing in addition. Okay. Yeah. All right. Great. Yeah, that was covered. All right. Thank you. And then we're going to move. I see we're doing well on time. We will move to item 9. 9.1. Lydia spoke to. Is Bongani in the meeting? Sorry, I'm not sure. Or I'm happy to talk to those.
No, Dr. T. Thank you.
Okay. So on the BEE policy, we did publish this for comments, and we received comments sometime late last year. And we've addressed those comments. We've finalized it. We've taken it to the board. And before end of the month, we will then be publishing this communique. Again, I just want to stress, right, that for now, what we are asking for, and you will then see an updated guideline for licensing. For now, all we're asking for is for you to submit your BE certificate or your affidavit, and we will utilize that information to do a sector-wide analysis. That's all that we're asking for now. Okay, and we'll keep you updated on next steps. Okay, I tried to have my camera on. It's telling me my camera is not working. So please, that's basically what this communique says. As we receive the comments from both when we articulate what's going to happen later, it causes a lot of confusion. It comes through as though what we've planned for later is going to happen now. So we really are taking it stepwise. So for now, all we require, and it will be communicated through the guideline, is just submit your documents so that we can do an industry analysis. That's the main part of this first phase. Okay. On local manufacturing, thank you again. We received quite a lot of comments. We've looked at the first set of comments. It's quite a bit. And so we will be having another engagement in the coming week or so to do the remaining comments. And after that, we'll take it to the board and publish then for implementation. We would like to make sure that this is done quite soon. So in the next month or so, we would want to have this local manufacturing policy published. And then in terms of the amendments of regulations to the ports of entry, so we've worked on this. We've included additional ports of entry and have updated the regulations. They've now been sent to the minister, who will then consider them and then publish for comments, and then we'll follow on that. So we will continue to engage with the Department of Health on just timeframes for that, for that gazetting of the regulations, but they have been amended. Okay, good. Any questions? Let me see. Well, the local manufacturing policy, no. So we've said this numerous times, right? That for now, it largely covers medicines and vaccines. As we continue to implement, especially after the feasibility study, we will then include medical devices, because it is important for us, like we've done for medicine, that we clearly articulate what it is that we will consider local manufacturing. And so once we are done with this one, we'll gather a lot from the feasibility study, and based on this, and again with time, it'll include camps. Okay, we've said this numerous times and it remains to be. The next question. Apologies. So licensing is related to legal and natural persons. What does a natural person provide? Again, we've articulated this in the policy. Please have a look at the policy. We clearly indicate what this refers to. Again, we are anchoring our position on the BEE Act, okay? And then another question. The one on phenylephrine, I wonder, when do we take this? Can I ask that we park this for when we take any other additional items, please? Or the team can, I see someone is responding or responded. Yes, okay, I see Luleka responded to that. Okay, great, thanks Luleka. Okay, next question is, does SAHPRA have a view on the ban of cannabis sativa, hemp seed flour published by the Minister of Health? Yeah, I'd rather not comment at this stage. We are engaging with the Minister of Health. So at this point, let me, yeah, I think let's wait for any communication to come through the ministry itself, but we are having discussions with them on this. Okay. Okay, so good. We'll continue to take the questions. Let's then, Kristalna, if you can give us an update on our IT projects.
Thanks, Tumi. I'm just gonna pull up the slides quickly. I hope this is visible for everybody. I'm just putting this on slide mode. Hopefully you can still see. Right. So just a quick update in terms of where we are with digitalization. So for the SAHPRA portal, just some feedback. We've concluded the focus group testing with a group of test applicants and internal staff members, which was conducted early in February. This went quite well. There was some good feedback coming out of the session. Few things that went on to our enhancement log for post the April launch that we would want to attend to further refine the tool. And we hope that those good pieces of feedback will keep coming so that we can continue to improve on this portal. The launch is still planned for 1 April, and we have got our webinar with the launch presentation on the 19th of March, which is next week. I believe that invitation has been shared, so if you can register and attend the session. If not, the session will also be recorded and then made available later through the events page. Then for an update just on DocuBridge, so we completed that ECTD 3.1 implementation 1 November. And since we have been busy engaging with our medical devices unit on putting the IMDRF folder submission structure in place so that they can start with the pilot for the feasibility study, receiving those applications and those also to be fed through to the DocuBridge tool for them to then access for review and management. So we have received a number of applications. Current applications have been screened. The compliant ones we were able to import into DocuBridge for the assessment. However, there were a few submissions that was not compliant, and through the unit, feedback has been given to those applicants in terms of what to correct. And as soon as the corrections have been effected on the unstructured data components, those one can be then resubmitted. Then the last little bit of activity that we also have coming up within the next month or two is just on the NDS portal. This then specifically for dealing or facilitating import-export permit applications for controlled substances. The focus group testing, again, we completed that one middle of February. We also had the team from the UN Office of Drugs and Crime here, and they helped us to facilitate that testing session. And where we are at the moment for month of March is just completing the data loads and also just polishing up the how-to manual for the NDS web interface that applicants will be using to do their submissions. Webinar will be, invitation will also be shared for early April with a planned go live date then also 1st of May 2025. Then a quick one just to talk to a little bit of the AI components. I think that a lot of regulatory authorities are looking at the moment. I think it is something that most of us struggle with is just the high volume of regulatory submissions, clinical trials, inspections, etc. That regulatory authorities face. And of course, just with those high volumes, bottlenecks, and that, of course, causes its own delays and inefficiencies in the process. And I think we also, like a number of other regulatory authorities, have taken the view that AI is not just a trend. It really is a transformative tool, and it has quite broad implications and applications for various industries, including that of health product regulation. So for SAHPRA, we needed to also consider how we could leverage using artificial intelligence possibly or potentially to help us also focus on certain more administrative activities and how to support our staff members with some of the more routine, some of the more administratively heavy activities, so that they can be freed up and have more time to spend on technical reviews. So I think for us also, we see this as something that can assist us in our decision-making processes, in the sense that, these insights that can be derived by going through large data sets and very quickly extracting key pieces of information and summarizing them in an easy-to-use format, instead of a person having to do the screening and data collection manually, definitely we view as a big time saver. So we do see that some of the implementation or deployment of tools will have some benefits that we could plow back, as I said, into freeing up resources to focus then on other activities. For SAHPRA, as I said, we've also aligned ourselves with what a lot of the thought leaders are doing from a regulatory space. I think there is some discussions planned with the Swedish Medicines Product Regulatory Authority, as well as we have connected with the MHRA just around the 6 tools and 3 tools respectively that those regulatory authorities have deployed for their different operations. I think the exciting thing is that there are some of the other regulatory authorities that already have started this journey. It was incredibly encouraging to hear that MHRA has been on their journey for just over a year, I think a year and 3 months. And they already have 6 operational tools that the teams are now busy putting through performance qualification. For us as well, we want to position ourselves as a leader in regulatory innovation through this AI adoption. And certainly it is to enhance our regulatory efficiency whilst we ensure compliance and improve public health outcomes. So some of the use cases that we are considering and will be exploring and doing some business cases for, I should say, for technical screening, this was one that we have already identified. It is currently in scoping, and we intend to automate the technical screening component for completeness and adherence to regulatory criteria and data requirements. We are also scoping at this point from a clinical trials perspective, just a draft review report assistant for running through our clinical trial progress reports that gets received. And then other topics that we still need to get scoping sessions set up for to understand the needs exactly is the PI-PIL comparison tool that will aid our assessors to complete logical comparisons. Risk rating tool, where we are at the moment finalizing the operational qualification, and then we'll progress by the middle of this year to deployment so that we can do operational, in the real world, the PQ validation. And then for pharmacovigilance, that is a project that we still have to kick off, and we still have a bit more scoping and market research to do. But with a lot of the tools and AI activities in this space and the focus even from an EMA perspective, it is quite exciting to pick up this conversation with some of the other authorities where this has already been deployed. The current proof of concept tools that we have looked at is there was a POC that was done for GMP technical screening, creating then an extract and a summary as almost as a primary review for your technical screener, that they could then do their assessment against and information verification and quick access to the relevant data in the ECT dossier This was, I think, for us very interesting. We saw some good efficiencies being unlocked through that process. Very small sample that we used to just run through a proof of concept, but definitely something that has a lot of potential for us to explore in terms of, how can I say, progressing that more to a prototype that the organization can then continue to train and refine, and over time, hopefully then start using in the operational context. And the same for our risk rating triage tool, where this should also then assist our assessors running through that initial step of where a risk benefit factor is then determined through running the different predefined rule sets for generic product applications, and then assigning a risk rating for further triage management by the team. This as well was very interesting to see some of the feedback that we got once we had trained the AI, and we then started doing some operational qualification. Definitely some refinement that I think still could be done, but this is another one that is incredibly promising and will save a huge amount of time. And that's kind of just what that first one looks like, the solution for the risk rating triaging system. So we're using different components of artificial intelligence, and it is at the moment an open weight system that we're using, and it's deployed in a Linux environment. Some key considerations for us to always then keep in mind with regards to considering AI and implementing AI within the operational environment. Key of mind is the governance and ethics consideration. So we have to work on establishing a AI oversight committee internally to ensure as well that the adoption of AI in regulatory practices here is ethical, transparent, and of course aligned with the highest standards of regulatory practice. From a data privacy perspective, our AI tools are designed with data privacy in mind, and there again, we will ensure compliance with South Africa's POPI standards and other international standards to protect sensitive information. I think the last component was also just, as I said, some of the feedback that we saw coming out of the proof of concept tools also then flagged for us that we have to spend quite a bit of time thinking about capacity building, using perhaps these AI tools as kind of like a feedback mechanism to identify perhaps training gaps or areas where we can continue to strive for improvement in approaches, in just the way that we document things. So of course, as any operational area, there is always a little bit of spit and polish that can be applied. And here, this helps us to just highlight one or two things that comes out through the feedback loop. As a spin-off to that, then look at creating almost as a playpen for new evaluators, kind of a safe training space where we can have the formative assessments concluded until they reach a specific stage. The moment this requires current business as usual resources to manage the hand-holding and manage the training and run through that formative assessment process with our new operators. And as you can imagine, that takes quite a lot of time. Some of the, I think, measurable benefits, we know that there are efficiency gains to be derived here. And just maybe for some context, I say that because out of the 2 prototypes or the 2 proof of concepts that we've done, we have seen that, for instance, just the triaging process for assigning that risk rating, typically it takes an assessor 1 to 2 hours, depending on how many APIs is contained in such a submission. And through the AI tool, that actually gets cut down to about 8 to 15 minutes. For the GMP technical screening and screening review report, I think best case scenario that we looked at in terms of taking some of the older data sets for some of the applications that have been registered, what activity time was linked to these activities. So you kind of have a contrast from a 3-hour process that it took the evaluator to go through all of the document, find all of the relevant data in the dossier, and then compile the technical screening review report for themselves. That sat at about 3 hours, and that got cut down to 15 minutes. So definitely benefits for the organization to be unlocked through deploying AI. And I think, yeah, very key thing is just to point out these tools are absolutely wonderful when they work. But of course, for them to work, we have to address issues around data quality. And I think that also then the reason why the ECTD 3.1 and why ECTD now became more and more critical for us to improve the quality of the submissions that we are able to get in. The other one, as I said, around cybersecurity, making sure that we have deployed all of the belts and braces to keep the information and the environment safe. And I mean, I can tell you, and you might have noted, we have put out communication recently, also again, just sensitizing internal and external parties to be mindful, to be safe. And unfortunately, it is just something that we're seeing at the moment from a South Africa perspective, just an increase in the number of attacks. And for us as well, with data being shared, we do run screens and we do run virus checks, but it's important for us to know that you also take the cybersecurity as seriously as we do. For future direction, I think definitely for us, as I said, we are quite excited about the prospects of now building a fully functional prototype for the technical screening component, and then looking to expand that into other areas where the organization has a need for assistance in terms of just running through some of the more administratively heavy tasks to create some of the efficiencies. We have to consider just, other than the tremendous benefits, also just the sustainability of the solutions that we propose to embark on, as well as then make the, how can I say, necessary strategic decisions around precautions and what guardrails gets put in place, what validation protocols gets deployed and followed, and also how we ensure that the information is then accurate and meets the quality criteria of the staff internally. And that, I think, is the end of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, let's take some questions. I'm just scrolling through them. So, I'm sorry. All right. So there's some questions for CAMS to address. Christina, there's a question here that when will SAHPRA release updated guidance regarding Module 1 in line with the newly added modules for ECTD version 3.1. And then the second one is, if applicants are having engagement portal registration problems, is it possible to contact SAHPRA tech people to resolve the issue? And then I'll take if we can take this next one, then we'll pause for you to respond. In light of the comment regarding the rejection of applications due to the multiple rounds of queries, would like to understand if concern. Okay, that's a separate one. We'll address that one. I'll respond to that one. All right, can you take those two, please?
To me, yeah, I'm also just trying to find them on the Q&A. But I think just the one that pops to mind now is just the question or comment around if they are having challenges with the SAHPRA portal registration. Please do contact SAHPRA ICT. There is I think I will just pop the email address in the Q&A section as well for everybody to find, but there is a help desk email address that you can send your queries to, and the technicians will then be in contact with you. Just to note, some of the common issues that have been flagged is we're not getting the email to verify the registration. Just please do make sure with your own ICT that the email address from the system is whitelisted. And that email address, I'll also just put in the chat so that you know what to ask your ICT to look for, so it doesn't accidentally block that through your mail services. And the other one, Dr. Tumi, you said something about a update to module 1 for the guideline, the guidance.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure what information is not clear. And I think this obviously probably the reason why we published this in March of last year. And I must say, this is the first time that I've got a question around, some confusion around what needs to be in module 1. So perhaps if the person that asked the question can then just send his particular question through to us here at HPA, we can then try and provide guidance. But as I said, I think all of the questions or issues that we've had originally with 3.1 we have addressed on the FAQs, and the guideline we believe is adequately granulated. But yeah, if there's further clarity, perhaps we should just get some insights into what those issues are or which areas are still confusing. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. We'll take that. Maybe the person can clarify when we open this up for comments. SAHPRA colleagues, please see the questions that are being asked and respond to them, please, because we will not be able to get through to everything. There's quite a number that have not been responded to. Okay. I think we've come to the end of our agenda. I just want to make sure. Yeah. So we'll open this up for questions. So if there's any of your questions that we didn't speak to, we're happy for you to now raise your hands, and Dogozo and the team will unmute you. There's one question that was raised around what are we doing to address the backlog, and Pratibha spoke to that. There's a number of ways of working that we are reviewing, and already, as she indicated, in the last few months, we are seeing the improvement that that's bringing through. Kristalna also spoke about the use of AI in some of the functions, and we do believe that with the capacity constraints that we have, by using technology, we should be able to drive a bit more efficiency. So there's quite a number of strategies. So there was a question on that. All right, let me just see if you could raise your hands, please. Okay, we'll take 3 questions at a time. All right, so I'm going to start, and apologies up front if I butcher your name or don't use a title. So Laith, Nasi, Katna, and Ansi, those 4, please.
Thank you, Doctor. So I just was looking for an answer to a question I put in the Q&A regarding the medical device regulation update. Sorry, it's Leith. Thanks. So I was just trying to follow along, but obviously it was quite a busy slide and I may just not have the insight that I need to follow it. But there were regulations published in August 2023 in the Government Gazette for medical devices. So I just wanted to find out where those fit in with the roadmap and the flow diagram that was presented. I'm not sure how those are different to the regulations that are being finalized now or that have been under review, if somebody could assist me with that.
Okay, thank you. Nasi?
Hey, hello, can you hear me?
No, we can't hear you. Extremely faint.
Hello? Okay.
I'm not sure if it's just me, but you're faint on my side.
All right, sorry.
Yeah,
I
go
can
ahead. We can hear you
okay.
now.
All right, great. My question was regarding the update to the validation template. So I think what the previous, it's relating to the previous question that was unclear in the Q&A. The validation template is not up to date with the updated 3.1 spec. So for new products, we're still using the old validation template. So I think, yeah, that's what the question's about.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next one is Kadna.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Tumi. Thank you. So my question is related to the communications that have been released lately by SAHPRA to update variation requirements. It's very easy to miss out information in the form of a communication, particularly when it comes to specific requirements to ECTD 3.1 for variations. So my question is, when are we going to have an updated variation guideline that is following the new requirement of ECTD 3.1? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's squeeze in one more, then we'll take another set. Ansi?
Thank you, Doctor. I actually have the same question that Katana has. I know there was this communication and the questions, but it doesn't, how can I say, completely address the variations in terms of version 3.1, exactly how you should handle module 1. So it's basically the same. Thank you.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Kristalna, I think there's 1 or 2 questions for you. Lydia, there's a question for you. Kristalna, I don't know if you also take the one on the variation guideline or if anyone else can. So let's take Kristalna, then Lydia.
Yeah, sorry. So I think the one on the variations, well, I don't know variations, but I just want to go back to the issue around the validation template. So, I mean, I believe Pratibha has indicated that there is an update to that for, I think it's 1.8 that will be shared. And that should be in April, just after the portal go live. Early April, middle of April. Sorry, and I'm not sure variations. Dr. Tumi, if you can just point me in the direction of that question. I'm trying to answer some of them online.
I'm not sure because I mean it's not specific about whether it's quality, clinical, etc. So maybe if I can't remember who asked the question on updating the variations guideline.
Yeah.
It was me. Thank you. So it pertains to quality mainly, because the last communication that was released, along with frequently asked questions, had an attachment that was related to requirements for variation submissions. So in the past, we've had a specific guideline for variations, and my question is basically to know if we are going to have an updated version of that applies to ECTD 3.1.
Yeah, definitely. We've got just a few internal workshops to step through and complete. But yeah, I have reached out to the colleagues in post registration. So I believe there is, well, I should say from an ECTD perspective, specifically to cover that components. So yeah, we have requested some workshops to actually step through that with them, and then I'm sure that an update can be shared soon after. Unfortunately, I don't have a timeline on that. All I can say is that the workshops are scheduled for end March and also 1 or 2 more in April. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lydia.
I think the question came from Liz. Liz, when you refer to the regulation of August 2023, yes, that's what I was speaking about. The regulation that were published for stakeholder comment on the 25th of August 2023. In summary, they have been received by NDOH, and NDOH shared with SAHPRA. SAHPRA reviewed, and together with the committee and the expert committee and the legal committee, we have finalized the review, and the document has been, the regulation has been they are currently being cleaned up to share with the executive committee board. Then it will go to the NDOH for publication. And then with regard to the roadmap is about the feasibility study, is not including the regulations. The regulations, they are on their own, looked at on their own, and then the feasibility study is on its own, and we are using the regulation as published by 9 December 2016. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So the regulations that were published in the Government Gazette were for comment. Those are not actually for implementation as yet.
Yes, they haven't been implemented. The one for August 2023.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take another set of questions. So from Tembelani and Simone, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. My question was, is SAHPRA currently issuing medical devices licensed to your radiopharmaceuticals products which are listed under Schedule 4 of the Consolidated Schedules Act, under Class C to be specific?
Sorry, can you just ask your question again? I didn't get it quite clearly.
Is SAHPRA currently issuing medical device licenses to radiopharmaceuticals products which are classified under Schedule 4?
Okay, all right. Simone? Simone, then Ramai Badi. And Dogozo, you need to unmute.
They are unmuted, Dr. T.
Okay. Ramai Badi, are you able to speak? We'll come back to Simone. They show as muted on my side, Dogozo. Oh, here we go. Ramai Badi.
Thank you, Dr. T. Can you all hear me? My question is with regards to payments for second queries. Is this inclusive of technical queries? Or is this only once it's gone through business review? So basically, when do we start counting?
Okay. Let's check Simone. We can't hear you if you're speaking. We'll go to Momina and come back to you. Momina and then Frangelina, then we'll take responses.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for the valuable feedback to some of the responses. Some of the questions raised, both in the working groups and in the chats and today now in this discussion. Also, I just think I have to say we note the escalation procedure and would ensure that industry follows this process moving forward. And then just welcome to Tammy very quickly because there will be some escalations coming through, I'm sure. And then just some of the questions I put in the chat. I think there was 3. So one was, is it possible for SAHPRA to please provide feedback on some of the comments that were given from industry on either the regulations or the guidelines? We think it's crucial to understand, some of the reasoning behind the rejection and context of those comments. Also, there were some comments made by industry on the quality of some of the guidelines, and some of the examples were given were, change control tables were not accurately recorded, and in some instances, there were version control was not correct as well. And then also on, can we look into this retrospective implementation of certain guidelines? And can we look into also, can we put appropriately considered implementation timelines in place? And then the last one, I apologize because I sent about 3 through. It was the comment made on the rejection of the applications due to the multiple rounds of queries. Will considerations be made in instances where the second query round includes issues that were not raised in the first round, as well as in cases where the guidelines appear to contradict the requests made by the departments, or there was a change but the change was not implemented on paper? Thanks, Sia.
Okay, thank you. There's quite a few. So let me ask, I'm not sure who's going to address the one on payments, whether it's finance or Kristalna, will you handle that? Then the one on medical devices, Lydia, but it speaks to pharmaceuticals. So maybe you can just share what it is that we do there. Maybe Silverani can assist. And then on the, let me tackle the one on the comments on that comments not accepted. I mean, we'll consider this. I know when for medical devices and CAMs, we actually had workshops on this where we indicated what it is that we didn't accept. It's not what we typically do, but we'll engage on this internally and see even if we just issue in writing. Okay. The point on the version control, it's noted, and Kristalna is listening, so we'll just make sure the QMS team assists with that. The one on the rejection, I responded here to say, if as industry you're of the view that the question we raise is not as per the guideline, I mean, you're well within your right to push back and ask for an engagement then with the team to say, why am I getting a question, and they can then explain why you're getting that. So my response was that highlight those issues to us and we will deal with those on a case by case. Okay, but the standard approach is that after 2 queries, we will then reject. On the retrospective, without a specific example being raised, I don't know if my team can respond to that. Maybe you want to give us a specific example. But let me pause here and ask Lydia and Kristalna to comment.
Dr. Tumi, I didn't get where I should comment. Is it about the radiopharmaceuticals licenses?
Yes, and actually that falls under medicine, so that's why I wasn't sure who from
Oh,
medicines
yeah, it
can
falls
speak.
under medicine.
It will
That's what
fall
I
under
was.
medicines, and we will then register those as medicines.
The one that I
So
got, it was, sorry, Dr.
go ahead.
Tumi, it was the one from Momina about the regulations, which I think you have touched on how will because I know for now that we've got the regulations for medical devices where the industry has commented on, so they wanted to know if we didn't take their comments and the justification for that. I think you have already answered that. I'm not sure if there is anything from my side that I might have missed.
No, thank you. You've covered it. On the payment, who's going to speak to that? Kristalna, can you speak to it?
Yeah, sure, Dr. Tumi. If I can just ask Momina again, sorry, what's the question with the payment?
It wasn't Momina.
Oh.
It was someone else. I can't remember the name. Someone asked about payment of fees for technical screening, I think. I can't remember who it was.
It was me.
Go ahead,
I
please
asked
clarify your
it. I wanted to ask if the second payment is inclusive of technical, or we only start counting once it's been reviewed by business.
Sorry, do you mean if you're applying or you're submitting your sequence, which is the response to query round 2? Is that what you're referring to in terms of the fees that are presented? Yeah.
Yeah, so when we receive technical queries, it would have it would say query 1 on the technical screening.
Yeah.
So my question is, do we start counting from then? Is that like my first query, or I only start counting once I've received a recommendation from the units? So it's exclusive. My assumption is that we're excluding the technical queries. We start counting in terms of paying for the second response. It's once business has started reviewing the actual content of the submission.
Oh, the content of the submission.
Yes, and not including the technical query, because it now has on the letter, it comes with a query 1, like it would count
from the unit. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So and Pratibha can jump in as well, but on the new fees that have been gazetted, so your initial application fee is inclusive of if there is a first query and we review the first query, because it is assumed that you will adequately respond and address the query that has been sent to you. However, if there then is a need to come back to say, well, this and this is still not adequate, and it creates a query 2, then for us to review the response to, there is a fee that is payable when you create and submit that sequence. Pratibha, I don't know if you want to comment as well.
Thanks, Kristalna. Thanks for your question as well. So from what I understand you've asked, the response is there's no fee on the technical screening, and we start the count for the scientific assessment rounds, right? So there's a first round, no fee. Second round, you will pay a fee. So we're not counting the technical screening as part of the rounds. Does that answer your question?
And there's one round.
Thanks, Pratibha.
Sorry, just to flag that there's one round of technical screening queries. We only have 2 rounds in the scientific evaluation component. Please just remember that always.
Okay. On the guidelines, as I said, it's generic, so I'm not sure if anyone can speak to that.
I will ask Anita and Ingrid if they're on to speak to it. If not, I can send something through via email.
Yeah, will you send something through so that we can look at
Yeah,
the specific
sure.
matter? Okay, great. Okay, we're going to take the set of questions. We've got Simone. We're going to try again. Are you able to hear us speak? No. Okay. Frangelina, Ofense, Victor,
Morning.
and Garazi for now. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning. Thanks, Doctor. And apologies because I battled to join in if this was tackled. It's with regards to the Class A non-measuring and non-sterile. There was a government gazette that was a bit confusing in terms of repealing, whether it's repealing the exemption or something else. That's the first question, whether the government gazette was saying that now they need licenses. And the second one is with regards to surgical masks and respirators. We've been having endless problems with the NRCS saying that that falls under their ambit and not SAHPRA. So we actually don't know. We listed that in a licenses, but NRCS said that's got nothing to do with SAHPRA. So don't know who is who in terms of ensuring that we're able to import those medical devices. Well, that's all from my side. And maybe the third one is the falsified medicine. I know you spoke about it. We do have some samples. Are we allowed to bring them to SAHPRA for them to get, because we know it's falsified for our product? You know, you're saying that even supplying for tenders, and those are not actually our products. Do we bring them to SAHPRA for investigation and action? Or what do we do? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Offense.
Hi, Doc. Thank you for the platform. So my question is with regards to fees pertaining to the second query rounds, right? So if we have a first query round, right, which we respond to, and upon the second query, there is a query that could have been picked up in the first query round. Suppose if it's a clinical, now the query, that problem that they identified was already there in the first round, and now we're going to a second round and have to pay. Are we able to push back to say that this could have been picked up in the first query round, so we wouldn't have to pay for it? And on a second note is, if that second query round is due to a change that is to effect like a guideline change that would have not been in effect at the time at which we made the submission, right? Would we then have to pay for that as well? Or would that not be considered as something that we need to pay for? Or will it be something that they would consider that maybe perhaps you can tell us to put it in our closing sequence? How would we navigate those situations?
Yeah, thank you. Let's take Victor.
Hi, I'm actually going to ask Simone's question. She sent me a message to say that she hasn't been unmuted and she can't sign in. It shows that on the screen as well, that she's not unmuted. So I'm just going to read what she sent to me. She says the retention fee requirement is coming up. Will SAHPRA issue invoices in May to prevent fees not being paid and cancellations issued, as this could be disruptive to performance? That's the question.
Thank you. I'm gonna squeeze in one more. Is it Maya? Zinat. Please go ahead. Maya Zinat. They seem to also still be muted. Let's tackle those. Lydia, again, if you can talk to the Class A Rachad, if you can talk to the questions on the fees with Kristalna, and even the one on when invoices will be sent, considering June is around the corner. If I could just speak to the one on SF, since we don't have Dion and Mukhadi, can I ask that you send us that request so that I can engage with the team? Because again, once you send samples to us, we must store them somewhere, then send them for testing, and we don't always have facility available. So please drop us an email, Dion, Daphne, and myself, and then we'll come back to you on that. Okay. Lydia, and then Rachad and Kristalna, please.
Okay, for Angelina, with regards to Class A's, publication, government gazette that was published. I don't know if you're familiar with that. There was a Class A government gazette that was published. Sometimes I think it was last year, which was a little bit confusing. Hence, there is another one that is being published now. And then on the top, we are talking about the Class A exemption for those Class A devices that are non-measurable and are non-sterile. And the repeal refers to the previous government gazette notice that was published, and it was a bit confusing. So the exemption to Class A, non-measurable, non-sterile, still stands. I hope that clears your frustration.
Okay, thank you, Lydia.
And then with regards to your second question about the mask and the respirator, I think this will answer you. But when it comes to NRCS, you do need a license for the sterile one, as I mentioned, Class A. With regard to NRCS, we are in the process of developing a core regulation model that will share together with the industry. We close to finalizing. We have developed a memorandum of understanding between NRCS and SAHPRA, and then we are close to finalizing it, and then we'll engage. I think that won't frustrate you in the future. But however, if you have a Class A that is sterile, you still need a license. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kristalna, Rachad.
Thanks, Dr. Tumi. I'll come in so long. So I think maybe just Ufense, yeah, I'm not sure what the frequency is of issues that is not picked up in round one being raised in round two. I mean, I would kind of be surprised actually if that has happened, seeing as that round one queries, you know, they go through the 4I principle, and then we do quality control before those are actually shipped through. So yeah, that is something that's a bit strange. So maybe you can just drop me a note offline and let me know how often does this happen, or if there's specific examples you want us to look at. But I think in just rule of thumb is if it's the second round query submission that comes through, there is a fee that is payable for that. In terms of changes of guidelines, so usually, you know, some of these submissions, as you can imagine, you do your submission, and the technical evaluation, perhaps, you know, for a particular unit would start 6 months post or 8 months post. And unfortunately, some of these changes, you know, they are driven through external factors, or there's a specific change that we do from a regulatory perspective need to accommodate. And at the time we then do that evaluation in the current operating environment, that then is the requirement that is applicable. So yes, we would need to then reflect that additional information. But again, to my first comment, I would expect to kind of see that already be raised with you as part of query round 1. So yes, if query round 1 is sent through to you and there is something that you need to now add, augment in your submission, the team would need for that to be addressed in order for them to do a complete response review. Thanks.
Yeah, if I also add to the retention fees. So no, the intention is not to invoice something that should have been cancelled by December due to various reasons. So that's why we currently busy with specifically with medical device cancellation to determine at what point they should have been removed from the register. So no, but overall, yes, we intend to issue our invoices in May, but for those that were or should have been valid at December 2024. Just on retention fees, it could become quite technical, but in agreement with COO, and also to consider if you resubmit information, it might also raise new queries or new questions. So in the end, we do incur a cost for that review and we need to recover it. Thank you.
Rachad, can you comment on the issue of invoices? Unless if I missed you there.
Yeah, I did.
Will you be able?
Yes, I did. It's on the medical devices, specifically Simone's question. I also typed in a comment, invoicing in May. The intention is not to invoice for licenses that should have been cancelled by end of December because we are currently busy with that cleanup.
But for ones who will be due for payment in June, will there be invoices that go out?
Yes, in May.
Yes, okay, good, thank you. All right, so we're still okay on time. Let me just double check. Yeah, we're still good. So let's take Garazi, Sarah, Lawana. Offense, you're coming back again. Is it offense? Okay.
Yes.
Let's take those, please. Yeah, you'll come back after the other 4, please. The other 3. Go ahead, Garazi.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you. Well, in the first place, I'd like to thank you for this meeting. And regarding medical devices, considering that veterinary medical devices were not considered in the study, I'd like to know how the guideline will affect to veterinary medical devices or if there will be a separate guideline. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Thank you for this meeting and for the chance to ask our questions. I would like to ask about the human medicine. If we receive a question for resubmission of missed sequences that has been submitted in the old version, and we have a deadline before the new portal launch, so how we can proceed with the same submitted old version, or we need to convert to the new SCTT version, considering that we have a very short timeline to resubmit? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lawana.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. 2 questions, please. Just clarity around the collaborative pathways that are available and are active or in effect from SAHPRA, particularly with regards to the EU M4All. I just wanted clarity whether that is an active pathway that can be pursued. Then the second one, I think just want to highlight or say or share our excitement with regards to the updates on AI and looking forward to sort of reaping those rewards as industry or healthcare as a whole in South Africa. I've noted SAHPRA is part of the regulator forums for a cumulus synergy. Are there any further considerations in terms of wider engagement there with regards to ongoing pilots that are at play? That's it.
Thank you. And then Ofense, and we'll take Hanley also, and then respond.
Thanks, Doc. It's a follow-up on the question I'd asked. I'm not entirely satisfied with the response because now we're shifting towards saying that, okay, what instances and it might not happen, but I don't know about others, but I've seen it a number of times where that actually happens. So what I would like to know is in the event that it does happen, because now if we take it offline and say, okay, I will send you instances where it happens, I still don't have a response to saying, in that case, do we have to pay?
Okay, thank you. Hanley?
Thank you, Doc. I just wanted to know, on the 12th of Feb this year, there was a government gazette on new fees. It looks like there's some confusion if we've paid the new fees that it's not effective. Is that fees effective or not?
Okay, so we'll respond to those. Lydia, yes, there was one for you again, and then Rahat, quite a few for you. And let me speak to the cumulus one. So with the cumulus, we still are, I guess, for us piloting this. So we haven't made a determination that this is the way of working that we will adopt going forward. So we'll see how it goes with the 1 or 2 pilots that we're involved in, and then we'll take it from there. So yeah. Okay, Rahat, then Lydia.
Yes, so the, the fee regulation that's been gazetted on the 12th of Feb is implementable. We did send out comments that it's implemented from the 13th because it was gazetted quite late in the afternoon on the 12th. So please visit our website for any formal communication in with regards to the applicability of the revised fee or the new fee regulation. So yeah, that's the only one I got. I think the other one is on responses, and it could become quite technical. And I think my response was clear from a cost recovery perspective that would apply unless there is, I think, like Christelna indicated, anomaly in the process or oversight. But like we've indicated, there's multiple reviews on those and peer reviewed. If something slips through, we probably need to be informed about it. But otherwise, like I've indicated, we incur a cost for that review, and new queries coming up could be also as a result of the information resubmitted or additional information submitted. But again, a bit technical for me to get to the details of that now.
All right, Christelna, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, Dr. Tumi, if I may just add, so just to tack on there what Richard's saying, yeah, we definitely, I would love to receive some of your examples or some of the issues. Please do feel free to just drop me an email just with that subject, you know, I want to say queries on queries. But yeah, just to indicate that this is actually the thread that you're sharing with me, and of course then I'll channel it to the relevant parties. If there are things that we need to sharpen up on, it would be good to know. Yeah, but I think in terms of the fees, those are the sequences that they apply for on your query round 2. But of course, if there is something that you need to flag with us or discuss with us, we are always open to be engaged. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Lydia?
Yeah. With regard to feasibility study, the focus is on human medical devices. Hence, and selected ones, selected criteria based on the our consultation with NICD and NDOH. And then with regards to veterinary medical devices, we have drafted and developed a communication or a position paper that we will share with the veterinary stakeholders. The paper is internally reviewed and undergoing review internally, and then we will share. It will give a clear guidance on our position towards veterinary medical devices in terms of registration as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, let's take Abdul and Ramai Badi, please. Those are the only two I can see on my side.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Doc. So we just have a quick question regarding medical oxygen facility licenses and what is SAHPRA's approach currently with regards to those licenses?
Just clarify, what do you mean SAHPRA's approach? Be specific, please.
It seems like our license entries onto the SAHPRA website was removed, but we were not consulted in any way, so we just wanted some clarity. This is to do
Since
like
I don't
medical
know
oxygen.
which company
Medical
you're
oxygen
from, can I ask
license.
that you drop Lydia an email and then she can respond to, because it sounds like a very company specific query. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Ramai Badi, Lawana, and Sarah.
Thank you. So my question is with regard to the fees again, but slightly different from what I asked initially. So it says that the second response for new product applications would be charged according to if it's a major, moderate, or minor. Is this at our discretion as the applicant? Do I get to decide if it's a major, minor, or will the query letter in the second query have this description for me so I know how much to pay when I respond?
Okay, Lawana.
Hi, Chair, just back. So, my first question wasn't quite addressed around whether the EU M4All collaborative pathway is active or in fact that we can opt in for that. As I think is noted in the portal.
Fine.
Yeah.
And then Sarah.
Thank you. I raised the question. I didn't get the response regarding the resubmission of myth sequences. Whether we can proceed with the old version or we need to proceed with an ECTD new version. I'm not sure if we can receive the response or not yet.
Okay, Christina, did you get that?
No, if she can just ask that question again.
Please ask
Yes,
again,
sure.
Sarah.
Sure.
Okay.
If we receive a request to resubmit old sequences that are missed on FTP portal and we have a deadline before the new portal, should we proceed with the old version of ECTD or we need to convert it to the new ECTD version, taking consideration that we have a very short timeline to resubmit?
Ah, okay. Can I maybe just check with Pratibha, please? As far as I know, we're asking you to submit what was submitted before, i.e. the previous version. Pratibha, can you just confirm my understanding, please?
Yes, thanks, Christella. I'm confirming, yes, you can submit in version 2.1 for the missing sequences before portal.
Yeah, we're just looking for the what is not on the system. So even if it's in the prior version, there's a specific bypass route that we're going to follow just to do a once-off bulk import once we've got all of those ones back. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And just for more clarification, do we expect to receive a validation acceptance like the new version or just a submission and we are waiting to check on the tracker later on?
It would be the latter. Pratibha?
No, we expect you to get your validation sequence. If you don't, please send us. Yeah, send
Okay,
us.
okay, thank
Are
you.
sorry, just for my clarification as well, we are asking for the trigger file, yes, Pratibha, even though it's the old version,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
The autumn, yeah, correct. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you.
Okay. If I could answer the one on the EU and for all. So, I mean, this is a mechanism that exists, right? So in terms of who opts in, it's industry's decision. So if you've got a product that you want to submit under that mechanism, you need to write to the European Medicines Agency and WHO, and then indicate if you then want to include SAHPRA in that. So that's wholly your decision. And once you've alluded to such with them, they'll engage with us and we would then be part of that mechanism. So it's still in existence. Okay, was there, I think, yeah, I'm trying to, have we answered all the questions?
There's one on the queries that I can quickly respond. It's also in the comments that the communication or the query letter will indicate whether it's major, moderate, or minor, and HPI now is working on a more general communication, just explaining how we classify that. I'm not sure when that would be issued, but I think it should be soon. Thanks.
Okay, Pratibha, I don't know if you've got any reflections there for us.
Thanks. So exactly as the CFO has mentioned, HPA is working on updating the general information guideline to include more descriptors with regards to major, moderate, and minor. But for now, with regards to second review round, no, the applicant doesn't decide if it's major, moderate, or minor. SAHPRA will inform by virtue of that query letter whether it is a major, moderate, or minor. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We'll take these last four. I'm not seeing, if you want to squeeze in a question, please raise your hand. Ramai Badi, Lance, Shemaine, and Patience, please.
Hi, this is Zenat Mayat. I just want to ask you on in the recent comms and the comms in August, it was stated that the approval of a finished product manufacturing secondary packer will now only be cannot be implemented. It's exempt from the implementation timelines of a type 1B and a type 1A, and we have to wait for the approval from quality and from inspectorate. Would the type 2 timelines then be followed?
Okay, thank you. Silverani, if you can tackle that when we get to responses. Lance?
Thank you, SAHPRA. I just require clarity regarding the evaluation phase. Just in terms of the number of response rounds per unit that's allowed. The general information guideline currently refers to 3 rounds per unit. Is this going to change to 2 rounds? That's the first question. And then just the second question is on the missing sequences that we have to resubmit to SAHPRA. We are currently getting validation errors on those submissions. Is there any way that we can circumvent them, Christina? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Shemaine? Shemaine, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. All right, let's move to Patience. Maybe there's a technical issue. Patience, and Dogozo, looks like we're struggling with
Hi.
these two.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to find out in terms of the ECTD numbers that were requested last month in Feb. We haven't received responses from SAHPRA, and with the portal closing on the 18th, I would like to know when can we expect responses on those?
Okay. Thank you. Let's try Shemaine again. Okay. Seems like you're battling, Shemaine, if you can type your question. Kristalna or Pratibha, do you want to take the last 2-3 questions? And then Silvan, if you can take the one on the first question, please.
Dr. Timi, yeah. If I miss something, I think Pratibha can maybe go. But basically on the guideline changes for maximum 2 query rounds, yes, we will change that and update it accordingly, so it then supports and corresponds with the new gazetted fee structure. And now I cannot remember. Sorry, I'm having a bit of an ADHD moment this morning. With the questions coming
so
in.
the missing sequences.
Yeah.
There was a question about submission of the missing sequences, and the one on the. It seems there's a guideline that speaks about 3 rounds, but our SOP says 2 rounds. I don't know who will speak to that.
Yeah, so that is the one that I've just tackled. So yeah, we will update that, talked to. And then in terms of sorry, the submissions for sequences.
Can I elaborate, Kristalna?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah?
Go for it.
Yeah, so we were requested to submit missing sequences. They were originally submitted in version 2.1 of ECTD.
Yeah.
Now we have to resubmit them, but they are being rejected because they are not in accordance with version 3.1.
Okay, is the trigger file saying 2.1? Pratibha, I don't know. Can you maybe just check for me, please, if that is what's causing the issue? As far as I know, the trigger file must just say version 2.1, so it reads the right.
No problem. Yeah, Lance, send the email, but I've given you the email address, right? It's in the trail. It's the ECTD validation, right? And we'll take it from there. We're addressing all of the queries. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Lance.
Okay.
Did I miss anything?
I'm trying to look at my scribbles here.
CEO, I'm supposed to.
Yes,
I'm
please,
supposed to
Sabrina.
respond to the question on the manufacturers and packers changes. So with those submissions, if it's classified as a type 1, we still require for the quality review to be done. So we normally take 30 days and then a subsequent 30 days for the inspectorate. So you would have to get approval from quality before inspectorate can undertake approving their changes. So in effect, we said with the 7 days of upload, etc., it will be a total of 67 working days. And CEO, if I could just maybe add to, and I think Offense wanted to get some clarity on if the questions that are raised are the same in the next round, and would they then be charged for that? So just to clarify, normally the first round has the most questions. It involves the entire review, and you're likely to get the most questions from there. And when you respond, you need to address all those issues. And sometimes you do respond, but you raise new issues on those. So inevitably new questions will be raised, and it may be related to the initial request. So in such cases where you fail to address what was required in the first round, these will then be rephrased or linked to the original question, and of which you will then pay. If you have a situation where you are clear that you haven't, you have addressed everything, and this is a completely new question that should have been raised in the first query round, you can always bring this to our attention, because as far as we know, as mentioned by the CEO, we have several rounds of primary, peer, and also a QC review to be able to check whether those questions are duplicating or questions that have been raised as new questions outside of what has been submitted in the first primary round. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Can we take Henriette and Seema?
Thank you very much. My question relates to a request to distinguish between business-related administrative changes to dossiers versus quality or content of dossier changes. We have various guidelines, particularly in terms of licensing and other variations, where we're not allowed to update any content to licenses when we do certain changes. And also with the dossiers, where impact is really about business changes and key staff changing, etc., that have really no bearing on the quality of the or the module 2 to 3 content of the dossier, but really just a reality of business where ownership of product changes or ownership of business changes, or even key personnel have resigned. These are not changes that we can keep back pending a variation having been approved. And at this point, this is causing challenges where product transfers, etc., can't happen, where ownership has changed of the product because there's a type 2 variation in progress. So yeah, my request is really around us being able to differentiate between business administrative changes and quality or other content changes.
Okay, I'll ask Silvani to speak to that. I think we do so, but let me have the team speak to that. Seema and then Patience.
Very much. I just wanted to find out, we have received communication or a request from SAHPRA to resubmit some sequences that have been found to be missing. Just one of the sequences was resubmitted just several days before we received the request, and we received the pass validation email. And we can see also on the tracker that the submission has been allocated and has been under review. I just wanted to find out, before we resubmit, just so that we don't disturb the review process, do we still need to resubmit? And also there's another sequence that, was submitted just some years ago. And then we also received the pass validation, and we can see also on the tracker it says that it's been under review. And also there's been another sequence that has been submitted after that one. So that means that we would need to unlock the sequence that was submitted so that we can resubmit the sequence that we have received request to resubmit. So how do we go about that one?
Okay, I'll have Pratibha or Kristalna speak to that. Then we're going to take the last one, Patience.
Hi, my initial question was not answered on ECTD numbers. I don't know if I need to maybe repeat it.
Please restate it.
Okay. I just wanted to find out that if you requested an ECTD number in Feb, when can we expect to receive a response, since the portal is closing on the 18th? And we would like to submit before then.
Okay, Kristalna will address that, or Pratibha. Okay, can we have responses to those questions, please? I think one
So
may be
CEO,
possible.
yeah. If I could start. This, I think, is a question from Henriette regarding changes that's currently underway and an intention to then make an administrative change or, transfer of applicancy while there are changes currently being or have been submitted. So we do, and I think this matter has been raised before, we do have a challenge in that when we're doing a review, we send the response to the applicant who has submitted the application. So our response letters will have the details of the one who had originally sent the variation, because that's being done by the variation section for the quality, for instance. And then you have an administrative change, and then you change the applicant. So if we are in the process of doing a review and we communicate it to the previous applicant, and if you have now maybe changed to a new applicant, you don't receive that response. And we've often had cases where this communication goes through and there's no response, and even to an extent that we communicate that we intend to reject because we haven't got a response. So the ideology behind having to make sure that all changes are done before you do something such as a transfer of applicancy or changes that would obviously impact our communication of the existing variations or changes that are being made. So I think it's just to ensure that when we communicate, we're communicating to the correct applicant, and that the applicant will then respond to the queries that's raised from technical side. And then from doing a transfer of applicants, it often results in communications not being received by the correct applicant. So we have then undertaken to make sure that you don't have any changes that's in the process when you're doing a transfer of applicancy. And also it's important for the new applicant to be aware of all of the current status. So you would hand over a dossier that's full and complete with all its information to the new applicant, because we often have times that the new applicant comes back to us and then is querying things, which they believe the old applicant should have done. So we need to have, correct transfer of information, and that the transfer of applicancy also means the transfer of the dossier, the information contained in the dossier. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Kristalna Pratibha.
Thanks. I'll take these questions, CEO. So with regards to Seema's questions on the missing sequences, so Seema, we did include an email for queries, the ECTD validation. You need to put your queries in there with the application numbers that you are querying. I can answer you now, but I would much rather go into the system on the back end and just have a look so I give you the correct answers. So I hope that helps. Then with regards to patients, if you've applied for an application number in February with the intent to submit on the 17th, you should have actually received your number by now. If not, can you please send a follow-up to the application number's mailbox? Please note, if you're submitting on the 17th, it has to be accompanied by the fee as well, or it will be rejected from the system. Thanks.
Thank you. Right, I think we've covered all the questions. Seema, is it a new hand or legacy?
Yes, it's a follow-up. So we have actually responded to that ECTD validation email with this query. And we just thought that we should just bring it up here, because we are noticing that the due date for responding is approaching, and we're not sure exactly what we need to do.
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
no, I think so. Just write to Pratibha and as she's guided then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, colleagues, I have to close this meeting. We've got 5 minutes left. Henriette, we're going to squeeze in your question, please.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Silverani, for your response. I think the issue goes a bit wider, though, because it also relates to updates to responsible pharmacists and, as I mentioned, the ownership change of businesses themselves as well, not just transfers. So the issue is really one of an administrative, almost super case being created for those kind of changes, so that ownership, which has legitimately transferred in reality, from one entity to another does not get held up because of a regulatory issue that possibly could be sitting in a backlog of a couple of years. So that is really my request, that we find a way in which we can handle business reality outside of regulatory process.
So,
Go ahead,
CEO, if I
Savani.
can just maybe get clarity as well, because when you say ownership, are you talking of ownership of the dossier, or will the applicant remain the same under such circumstances? Because remember, we deal with the dossier information; it's confidential information, and if it currently exists under a holder of certificate of registration, any change there does impact the information that has been transferred over. So it's still the rationale that we use would still apply. But I think we can discuss this in the working group sessions to actually maybe have examples where we can look at what the implications are. But I think ownership of a dossier, if you are referencing a change in owner, it infers ownership of the dossier, then we are still bound by that requirement. And then maybe just something else in general to mention. We have been receiving applications from applicants for variations where they're using the same sequence number. So say for instance, they've submitted a sequence 2 for a particular type of variation. They submit again another sequence 2 for a different type of variation. And they were not supposed to be using the same sequence numbers to submit different variations. So it's creating a situation where when you do a follow-up and we pick up that we have already done sequence 2, and then you say, but my sequence 2 actually says I want to have a change in something else. So this is creating confusion, and also in terms of us doing revenue recognition, it becomes a problem because there's only one sequence 2 that was supposed to be done. And in some instances, by also submitting changes, the same change, you submitted it as sequence 2, and then you submit another one, the exact same change as a sequence 3, you are duplicating it. So what's happening is our resources are being used inefficiently by having to do 2 different reviews. And we could have actually used that time to evaluate something that's needed. So that's just some concerns that we do experience. I know we discussed this in the working group, but maybe just for the wider audience to be aware of. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Savani. I mean, if you guys need to touch base on it to provide that clarity, let's do so. All right, thank you, everyone. Yeah, lots to tackle clearly, but I think it was a productive meeting. Again, my sense is a lot of these can be handled at the working group. So I'm going to encourage that any questions you have, field it to your representatives in the working group so that they get addressed in time. I mean, we only have this meeting once every 3 months, right? So you don't want these matters to be pending for that long. But generally, I just want to thank you for your participation. We have quite a number of people that joined, and we do appreciate your time and appreciate the questions that you've raised. Thank you to the SAHPRA team for preparing for this meeting. So with that said, I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day further.